Welcome to another episode of Brave Deeds. In this video, we are going to talk about something very important and relevant for anyone who is looking for a spouse or who is already married. We're going to talk about 7 red flags that you should avoid in a partner. If you find them in your spouse, that does not necessarily mean that your marriage is doomed. However, it does mean that there are some issues that need to be addressed and that you should not ignore or deny them. The best thing to do if you find these signs in your spouse is to communicate with them in a respectable way. Don't skip this video, as red flags are the signs that you should not ignore or make excuses for, but rather take seriously and act upon. 1. Materialism. Materialism is when someone loves the worldly things too much and forgets about the spiritual things. A materialistic person is never happy with what they have and always wants more and more. They may also be stingy, greedy, and ungrateful. Materialism is against the teachings of Islam, and it makes us lose sight of the true purpose of life, which is to worship Allah and seek His pleasure. Allah tells us in the Quran, "And this worldly life is not but diversion and amusement, and indeed the home of the hereafter, that is the eternal life, if only they knew." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, also warned us about the dangers of materialism. He said, "Be on your guard against committing oppression, for oppression is a darkness on the day of resurrection, and be on your guard against stinginess, for stinginess destroyed those who were before you, as it incited them to shed blood and make lawful what was unlawful for them." If someone is too attached to dunya, or world, and doesn't have a balance between their worldly and spiritual needs, then this is a red flag that you should avoid. You should look for a partner who is content with what Allah has given them, and who is generous, grateful, and mindful of Allah. 2. Constant lying. A liar is someone who lies all the time and does not care about honesty and trust. A liar may lie for different reasons, such as to get something, to avoid something, to impress someone, to hide something, or to hurt someone. Lying is one of the major sins in Islam, and it contradicts the attribute of truthfulness, which is one of the qualities of the believers. Allah tells us in the Quran, "O you who have believed, fear Allah, and be with those who are true." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, also emphasized the importance of truthfulness and the evil of lying. He said, "Truthfulness leads to righteousness, and righteousness leads to paradise. And a man keeps on telling the truth until he becomes a truthful person. Falsehood leads to wickedness, and wickedness leads to the hellfire. And a man may keep on telling lies till he is written before Allah as a liar." You should look for a partner who is honest, trustworthy, and sincere. 3. Chronic laziness. Laziness is when someone does not have any energy, enthusiasm, or motivation to do something that they should do. A lazy person is someone who procrastinates, wastes time, and does not fulfill their obligations. A lazy person may also be negligent, careless, and irresponsible. They may not have any goals, ambitions, or plans for their life. They may not care about their personal, professional, or religious growth. Laziness is disliked in Islam, and it prevents us from fulfilling our potential and from doing good deeds that please Allah. Allah tells us in the Quran, "So when you have finished your duties, then stand up for worship, and to your Lord direct your longing." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, also taught us to seek refuge from laziness and to be active and productive. He used to say in his supplication, "O Allah, I seek refuge in you from anxiety and sorrow, weakness and laziness, miserliness and cowardice, the burden of debts, and from being overpowered by men." You should look for a partner who is energetic, enthusiastic, and motivated. Disrespect for personal boundaries. The 4th red flag that you should avoid in a partner is disrespect for personal boundaries. Personal boundaries are the limits and rules that we set for ourselves and others in order to protect our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. They also reflect our values, preferences, and needs. A person who respects personal boundaries is someone who respects themselves and others, and who does not violate or impose on the rights, feelings, and choices of others. Disrespect for personal boundaries is contrary to Islam, as Islam teaches us to respect the dignity, privacy, and autonomy of every human being. Allah tells us in the Quran, "O you who have believed, do not enter houses other than your own houses until you ascertain welcome and greet their inhabitants. That is best for you. Perhaps you will be reminded. And if you do not find anyone therein, do not enter them until permission has been given you. And if it is said to you, 'Go back,' then go back. It is purer for you. And Allah is knowing of what you do." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, also instructed us to respect the personal boundaries of others and to avoid harming or annoying them. He said, "A Muslim is the one from whose tongue and hand the Muslims are safe, and a believer is the one from whom the people's lives and wealth are safe." 5. Overdependence, lack of independence. A person who is overdependent or lacks independence is someone who is immature, irresponsible, and incapable. They may depend on others for their basic needs, such as food, clothing, shelter, money, etc. They may also depend on others for their emotional needs, such as validation, approval, attention, etc. They may not have any sense of self or any personal goals or interests. They may not be able to think for themselves or to assert themselves. They may be needy, clingy, or insecure. Overdependence or lack of independence makes us weak, vulnerable, and dependent on the creation instead of the Creator. Allah tells us in the Quran, "And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Indeed, Allah will accomplish His purpose. Allah has already set for everything a decreed extent." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, also encouraged us to be independent and to seek the help of Allah and not of people. He said, "If you ask, then ask of Allah, and if you seek help, then seek help from Allah. And know that if the entire nation were to gather together to benefit you with something, they would not benefit you except with what Allah had already decreed for you. And if they were to gather together to harm you with something, they would not harm you except with what Allah had already decreed against you. The pens have been lifted, and the pages have dried." 6. Excess anger. Anger is a natural and normal emotion that we feel when we are hurt, frustrated, or threatened. Anger becomes a problem when it is expressed in a harmful or destructive way. Such a person is easily provoked and who reacts with rage, violence, or aggression. They may lose control of themselves and say or do things that they regret later. Islam emphasized the importance of emotional and social skills, such as patience, forgiveness, kindness, mercy, and love. Allah tells us in the Quran, "And by the mercy of Allah you dealt with them gently, and if you had been rude in speech and harsh in heart, they would have disbanded from about you. So pardon them and ask forgiveness for them, and consult them in the matter. And when you have decided, then rely upon Allah. Indeed, Allah loves those who rely upon Him." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, also demonstrated the highest level of emotional intelligence and taught us to be emotionally intelligent as well. He said, "Indeed, he who has in his heart the weight of a mustard seed of arrogance will not enter paradise." And he also said, "The strong is not the one who overcomes the people by his strength, but the strong is the one who controls himself while in anger." 7. Absence of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, manage, and express one's own emotions and to empathize with and respond appropriately to the emotions of others. A person who lacks emotional intelligence is someone who is unaware, insensitive, and indifferent. They may not recognize or care about their own or others' feelings. They may have difficulty expressing themselves, understanding others, or maintaining harmony. They may be selfish, rude, or abusive. Islam, which emphasize the importance of emotional and social skills such as patience, forgiveness, kindness, mercy, and love. Allah tells us in the Quran, "And by the mercy of Allah, you dealt with them gently. And if you had been rude in speech and harsh in heart, they would have disbanded from about you. So pardon them and ask forgiveness for them and consult them in the matter. And when you have decided, then rely upon Allah. Indeed, Allah loves those who rely upon Him." The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "None of you will believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself." And he also said, "The most perfect of the believers in faith is the best of them in moral excellence, and the best of you are the kindest of you to their wives." These are the 7 red flags that you should avoid in a partner, according to Islam. We hope that this video has been beneficial for you and that it will help you make wise and informed decisions in your search for a spouse. Remember, marriage is a sacred and lifelong commitment, and it should not be taken lightly. You should look for a partner who will help you grow in your faith and who will support you in your journey to Allah. You should also strive to be the best version of yourself and to cultivate the qualities that will make you a good partner for someone else. May Allah bless you all with righteous and compatible spouses, and may He grant you happiness and peace in this world and the next. Ameen. Thank you for watching this video.